Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sasha, and we are going to go ahead and just resume in reading again from the book, The World's Worst Serial Killers. So the story that we're going to be reading on is Jane Toppin, and we're going to learn about what she did, like what her crimes were, and what all happened, okay? Nurse in care Jane Toppin said that her ambition had been to have unalived more people, helpless people, than any other man or woman who ever lived. In her 16-year career as a poisoner, she certainly tried her best, unaliving maybe as many as 100. Her motives seems to have been sexual, and her actions perhaps provoked by inherited insanity. So she literally knew what she was doing, was a-okay with this, and apparently it was making her seek pleasure, but then also there was some form of mental illness going on. Interesting. I don't think we read that in the past few where they purposely wanted to do this, or maybe we did. Born Nora Kelly in Boston in 1854, she was the daughter of Irish immigrants. She lost her mother Bridget to tuberculosis when an infant, leaving her and her siblings in the care of her abusive, alcoholic father Peter, who was known as Kelly the Crack as in crackpot. I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but that's funny. He went insane. He was reportedly found in his shop sewing his eyelids together. Okay. Nora's older sister Nellie later followed him to the asylum. Their grandmother was unable to look after the remaining children, so 6-year-old Nora and her sister Delia, aged 8, were sent to the Boston Female Asylum, an orphanage for indigent girls. At the age of 10, the orphanage placed their wards with respectable families. Nora and Delia were farmed out as indentured servants. Delia fell into prostitution, became an alcoholic, and died in poverty. That's so sad. Nora was taken in by Abner and Ann Toppin, who changed Nora's name to Jane and took her to live in Lowell, Massachusetts. While they never formally adopted her, she took their surname. Because of prejudice against the Irish, the Toppins passed Jane off as an Italian whose parents had died at sea. Displaying the early hallmarks of a sociopath, Jane herself began telling outrageous lies. Her father, she said, had sailed around the world. Her sister married an English nobleman. Her brother was decorated at Gettysburg by Abraham Lincoln. So she was just, growing up the way she did, it's no surprise. Brilliant and aggressive. Jane did well at school, graduating aged 18. But she was a mischievous child, prone to lying and petty theft, but very smart. Aren't most sociopaths smart, though? Like, very, very smart, but do some oddball stuff? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. In her schoolwork, as in her profession in later years, she was one of the leaders of her class, brilliant and aggressive in all things. A newspaper story said after her death, the Toppin freed Jane from her indenture and gave her $50, but she stayed in the household as a servant. Now, I don't know what that would be in today's time, but it sounds like it would be a lot of money. Like $50 back in the 1800s, probably would be like equivalent to maybe like a few thousand. I don't know. I'll look it up. I probably won't. While Jane put on weight, it was her foster sister Elizabeth that was popular with the boys in Lowell. Nevertheless, Jane got engaged, but when her fiance went to find work 113 kilometers or 70 miles away in Holyoke, he married his landlady's daughter there. What? Jane hammered the engagement ring he'd given her to pieces. She then became withdrawn and twice tried to unalive herself. At the age of 26, she decided to study nursing at a hospital in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where she was hardworking and popular initially. There, she became known as Jolly Jane for her outgoing personality. However, she liked to gossip and celebrated the dismissal of students she didn't like. The lies continued. She said that the Tsar of Russia had offered her a nursing job, and she probably stole small things. Her fellow students grew to detest her. The hospital administration were concerned about her ghoulish interest in autopsies. What they did not know was that during her residency, she used her elderly patients as guinea pigs in experiments with drugs. She would alter their prescribed dosages to see what effect it had on their nervous systems, seemingly an angel of mercy. She would spend a lot of time alone with her victims, making up fake charts and medicating them so that they would drift in and out of consciousness. She even got into bed with them. But that's all it says. Yeah, okay. Practice red rums. When two patients under her care passed away in mysterious circumstances, she was fired. These early unalivings, she said, she considered practice red rums. She later admitted getting a sexual thrill from watching victims as they lost consciousness, and she would cradle them as they passed away. A patient named Amelia Finney survived the bitter tasting medicine Toppin had given her. She said that as she lapsed into unconsciousness, Toppin climbed into bed with her and began kissing her all over the face. Like, what the fuck, bitch? Get off me. But something startled her and she stopped. The next morning, Finney decided it had all been a dream. 14 years later, when Jane Toppin was arrested, Finney realized that it was no dream. Jane went on to work at Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston, where she continued unaliving patients. Her method was to use a mixture of morphine and atropine, the active ingredient in belladonna, which is a plant. I don't know. I know they actually still grow in places, but yeah, they are very, 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 very toxic. Morphine made the pupils constrict, while atropine made them dilate. Ooh, that just, ugh. I don't know. That sounds painful. Like, I don't know why. Like your eyes doing weird shit. A careful balance of them disguised the symptoms of poisoning. She discovered this method reading about the much publicized case of Dr. Robert Buchanan of New York City, who red-rummed his wife for the insurance money in 1892. He went to the electric chair in Sing Sing in July 1895. See, back in the day, they didn't waste no damn time. Okay? When people was on the row, they did not waste time. Nowadays, someone gets the row in like 92 and they're still walking around in 2025. Okay? Damn. By then, Toppin had been dismissed by Massachusetts General for recklessly dispensing opiates. Nevertheless, doctors recommended her as a private nurse to their wealthy clients. Nigga, why? Why? Soon, she was earning $25 a week when the average weekly wage for a woman was $5. So she was making money in 1895 or whatever year it was for this woman. Outside of her job, she guzzled beer, told dirty jokes, gossiped madly, and enjoyed turning her friends against each other. But to the doctors and her patients, she seemed a highly skilled professional, compassionate and cheerful. The mindset of a sociopath, baby. They know how to fit in. That's my Kindle. Returning to Cambridge, her next two victims were Israel and Lovey Dunham, her elderly landlords. Mr. Dunham died in May 1895, aged 83, and the cause of death was given as a strangulated hernia. 87-year-old Mrs. Dunham died 2 years later, reportedly of old age. Toppin later explained they had become feeble and fussy, and old and cranky. Her colleagues in nursing school remembered her saying there was no use keeping old people alive. Ma'am, the hell. When wealthy widow Mary McNear, age 70, fell ill on a visit to Cambridge, her doctor sent one of my best nurses. Can you guess who that was? Santa Claus. Jane Toppin, to look after her. After just 3 hours of nursing, McNair died, apparently of I'm so sorry, I'm about to start this word. Apoplexy? Apoplexy? Oh my gosh, y'all. Sorry, I'm gonna have to look this word up. I'm sorry, I never heard of this word. I'm sure it's something that we've all fucking heard of. Sorry, y'all, this may be a long video because I want to look this word up. So this means a sudden loss of a bodily function due to a hemorrhage or a blockage of a blood vessel in the brain. Wow. Okay. A month later, Toppin killed her old friend Myra Connors with strychnine so Jane could take over her job as the dining hall matron at St. John's Theological School in Cambridge. But she was soon fired when financial irregularities were discovered. So this lady even unalived her friend. She's like, I bet you gotta go too. You gotta go. I ain't heard strychnine forever. Then in 1899, Jane's foster sister Elizabeth, who was married to Oramel Brigham, the deacon of the Lowell Church, invited her to visit. When Elizabeth complained of depression, Jane took her on a picnic consisting of cold corned beef, taffy, and mineral water laced with strychnine. No lemonade, no tea. I held her in my arms and watched with delight as she gasped her light out, Toppin said later. The following year, she unalived the widower's 45-year-old housekeeper, Florence Calkins. The cause of death was given as chronic diabetes. Toppin's unaliving spree reached new heights in 1901. She poisoned new landlords Melvin and Eliza Beadle early that year, but only gave enough medication to make them ill. She then drugged their housekeeper, Mary Sullivan, to make her appear drunk so she could take her job. Then she unalived the entire Davis family in 2 months that summer. 2 months. Like, goddamn. No days off, no vacations, Jane. You just a workaholic in this aspect. Okay, we get you, boo. Mineral water. Jane was living in a house rented from the Davis family at Calumet. Sorry, y'all. A neighborhood of Bourne, Massachusetts, but could not keep up with the rent. When Maddie Davis turned up to collect it on a sweltering July day, Toppin gave her a glass of mineral water. She fell ill. Toppin nursed her over the next 7 days, dosing her with morphine. By the time she passed away, her daughter Geraldine Gordon was ill, and Maddie's widower, retired sea captain Alden Davis, begged her to stay on to nurse her. Geraldine died 3 weeks later after her mother. Alden himself died 2 weeks later. The surviving daughter, Minnie Gibbs, refused to sign off the rental debt that Toppin owed the family. After drinking a tonic given to her by the nurse, Minnie passed away too. The fuck would you not? Why would you drink it, ma'am? Why would you drink it, ma'am? When Minnie's husband, sailor Captain Paul Gibbs, returned from sea, he became suspicious that the entire, seemingly healthy, Davis family had perished so suddenly. He spoke to the police, who called in toxicologist Leonard Wood and had the bodies exhumed. Investigation revealed that his wife died of morphine and atropine poisoning. Toppin then returned to Lowell, where she had designs on marrying Oramel Brigham, her stepsister's former partner. Within 3 days, she unalived his older sister, 77-year-old Edna Burrister, fearing she might oppose any match between them. She took over the running of the house from Edna and tried to impress Brigham with her housekeeping skills. Brigham made it clear he didn't want her as a housekeeper or as a wife. He's like, listen, lady. Listen, psycho. I don't want you. I don't want you to clean my house or cook my food, and I damn sure don't want you in my bed. You're trash. He just didn't say it like that. He just told her straight up, I don't want you, ma'am. So stop. Save that shit for somebody else, boo. Toppin decided to win his love by poisoning him, then nursing him back to health. That didn't work either. So she threatened to claim he'd made her pregnant. Enraged, Brigham ordered Toppin out of the house. She then tried to unalive herself. Sorry. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, y'all. She then tried to unalive herself with an overdose of morphine, but failed and went to the hospital. Upon her release, she went to the home of George Nichols in Amherst, New Hampshire, to nurse his sister Sarah. By then, a Massachusetts state detective was on her tail, suspecting her of unaliving the entire Davis family. There, on the 29th of October, 1901, she was arrested for the red rum of Minnie Gibbs. She voluntarily returned to Massachusetts, though she continued protesting her innocence. I'm innocent. But when she was interviewed by a psychiatrist, she could not resist boasting about how many she had unalived. In jail awaiting trial, she told newspapermen that she had given the consultant psychiatrist and the attorney generals the names of 31 persons I red rummed. But as a matter of fact, I unalived many more whose names I cannot recall. I think it would be safe to say I unalived at least 100 from the time I became a nurse at Boston Hospital, where I unalived the first one until I ended the lives of the Davis family. However, only 12 red rums were confirmed, though 100 were suspected. If all of the suspicions involving the operations of Jane Toppin could be substantiated in the opinion of men acquainted with the investigations in Katimat, Cambridge, and Lowell, the succession of red rums will cover a wider range and be more astounding than any series of crimes perpetuated by one person in many years, said the newspaper The Lowell Sun on the 1st of November, 1901. During her 8-hour trial on the 23rd of June, 1902, she was asked by her counsel, "How did you unalive them?" Toppin replied, "I gave them doses of morphine and atropine tablets in mineral water, and sometimes in a dilution of whiskey. Then I also used injections, just as I did in Katimat. I do not remember how I unalived them all, but those that I recall were poisoned by atropine and morphine. My memory is not good. I forgot some things. No, I have absolutely no remorse. I have never felt sorry for what I have done. Even when I poisoned my dearest friends, as the Davises were, I did not feel any regret afterwards. I do not feel any remorse now. I have thought it all over, and I cannot detect the slightest bit of sorrow over what I have done." She just sitting there like, no regrets, no remorse, none whatsoever. In a confession printed as a supplement to the New York Journal, she claimed her red rummus ways were sparked by being dumped when she was 16. So you're telling me that because she got dumped at 16, she claims this is what sparked her rage to unalive people? Okay, ma'am. If I had been a married woman, I probably would not have unalived all those people. I would have had my husband, my children, and my home to take up my mind. Toppin was declared not guilty by reason of insanity and sent to Taunton State Hospital for life. When she initially came to the asylum, she refused to eat, afraid that her food may be poisoned, which the newspapers gloated was an ironic revenge. She died there at the age of 84 on the 17th of August, 1938. Attendants remembered her calling them into her room and smiling. "Get some morphine, dearie," she would say, "and we'll go out in the ward. You and I will have a lot of fun seeing them pass away." Yeah, Jane Toppin definitely was an interesting one. And I definitely believe that because of how she was raised. Her mother passed away from tuberculosis. Her dad pretty much went insane, which means he probably had his own mental health struggles in the beginning. And then her sister passed away after being a prostitute. So, I mean, I don't ever feel sorry for any of the people that I read about. It's really unfortunate. It is really sad, though, you know, that because of who Jane was and her mindset, she just felt no remorse, no guilt. And I think that is one thing that really, like, everybody else did it just because of whatever, but she's sitting there like, nope, no remorse, don't care, let's do it again. To the point where if she was never arrested and put in jail, she would have kept going and going and going. And that's the scary part about it. So, yes, that is Jane Topping. There were no photos this time of Jane, but when I post the video, I did find some stuff to make a cute little thumbnail, or not cute, but whatever. I made a cute little thumbnail. So I did hope you enjoyed us reading about Jane Topping. And we have one more for the Terrors of the Past subsection or sub-series. And I will see you in the next one. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye!